Righty-ho, neighborinos. Once again, this is Keith Bird, your ruggedly handsome cybersecurity pal, with another update in the world of cybersecurity for civilians. First off, let me issue a slight correction on last week's video. When I was talking about the relative security of different modes of 2FA, I might have left the impression that using an authentication app on your phone is the only secure way to go. Well, in the sense of what everyone is using and what's available, that's true. However, I completely forgot another form of 2FA, which might be the most secure one out there, biometrics. Unlike an authentication app token, which is something you have, biometrics uses something you are, something that's part of your body, like a retinal scan or a fingerprint scan. Theoretically, this is probably the most secure way to do 2FA. If a website needed you to log in with your password and a fingerprint scan, that would be awesome. However, there are two wrinkles, two things to keep in mind considering this issue. Number one is buy-in. Fingerprint scanners are a lot more expensive and difficult to widely distribute than authentication apps. That's just the way it is. And also, number two, as I've said over and over and over and over again, there's no such thing as perfect security in this world. Depending on the quality of the scanner, it is possible to fool this scanner if someone is determined to do so. There have been cases in which security researchers or bad guys were able to fool the fingerprint reader on a smartphone. It has happened. However, that would have to be something that someone would have to put some effort and time and money into. You really have to be targeted for something like this. Anyway, in the real world where we're living right here and now, authentication apps really are the best option we have most of the time. And if your bank or other supposedly secure website is still using a text or email to you to try to validate who you are or to change your password, I urge you to ask to pressure them to switch to an authentication app. So let's get to the main topic for today, which, as you might have noticed from the title, is some tough love I've got to dish out on smartphones. Here's the skinny on this. First, I own an Android phone. I know how to keep my phone reasonably secure, and I do what's needed. Second, as I've stated before on prior videos, if all I cared about was security, if I didn't care about price or the ability to configure my phone the way I like it, I repeat, if all I cared about was security, then I would totally be an Apple guy. Third, the perennial problem with Android is what we call fragmentation. To oversimplify it, Google created the Android operating system, just like Microsoft created the Windows operating system. Google makes a deal with all these different manufacturers like Samsung and Huawei and HTC and Casio to put the Android operating system on the phones they make. And in some ways, this is a real boon for consumers. You have phone prices which range from a couple of $100 up to around 800 or 900. That's usually around the upper range. You have a huge variety of styles and sizes and brands and colors to choose from. Not so much with Apple. With Apple is basically, here's your phone. And we offer 2 different sizes and maybe 3 different colors. Woo-hoo! So here's the problem with Android phone fragmentation. It's really a big example of you get what you pay for. Google comes out with a new security update. It sends this update to all the different manufacturers. And all the manufacturers out there might take their sweet time getting these updates out to their phones. Maybe they just need to tweak it a little bit for their own phones, and that's understandable. Or maybe they just don't give a rip. They sold you that phone for $100 and they have to weigh the cost of that time and effort and money into getting that update out to you. You've had the phone for a couple of years and they're really motivated at this point to try to get you to buy a new phone instead of hanging on to that old one. The bottom line is, once they've got their money, they might not be so motivated to update it as quickly as they can. This is the double-edged sword of the flexibility of the Android OS versus the Apple system. These different manufacturers might not be totally in sync with each other as to which update they're on, and that's a problem. That's why I have a Pixel phone, which along with Samsung really is the top of the line. If you're going to have a smartphone, then you really need to be ready to pay some money for it. Get on a payment plan for it with your phone company. Just take it as the cost of having a smartphone. Pixel phones, which is manufactured by Google, is always at the tip of the spear when it comes to getting updates. Why? Because Google doesn't have to hand their update to someone else. They come up with their update and their own phones are obviously the first to get it. Samsung is also really good at this because their phones are at the upper end of the price range. So they're more motivated to make sure that your next phone is a Samsung. I mean, think of it, look at it this way. Let's say that you're paying, say, $100 a month to your landlord, just $100. How much do you think he's going to pay for pest service for your apartment? Is he going to use the top of the line, or is he going to use the cheapest service out there? Cheapest service he can get away with. How motivated is he going to be really to get your toilet working? If you decide to leave, how much money is he really losing if you're just paying him $100 a month? It's not true in all commercial transactions, but it is true more often than not. You get what you pay for. So why is this so important? Why is Keith harping on updates on your phones? Well, for the same reason I harp on keeping your Windows machine up to date. When the owners of an operating system like Microsoft or Google or Apple come out with a security update, then the bad guys know about it. And they immediately take this update apart and tell where the hole is that patch fixes. And they immediately go sniffing for systems out there which aren't getting patched. So here's my advice. Check out what operating system that Android phone is on before you buy it. How old is it? If it's 2 years old or older, that's a really bad sign. Right now, as of this recording, the newest version of Android is Android 10. If the phone you're looking at or the phone you have in your pocket right now is Android 9 or older, you really need to consider getting a new phone. And either plan on spending some money on it or just decide whether you want to take that risk. Just as a very rough rule of thumb, I'd say I wouldn't want to pay less than, say, $500 for a phone on an installment plan. See, most people can do this. The problem is everybody wants the best value. They want the convenience of a smartphone, but they might not realize just how important keeping it updated really is. And they might be less than willing to pay something more for something they don't know is so valuable, namely the security of their phone, where they keep their entire lives. And the sales guy in front of you might or might not be willing to mention this issue to you if it might cost him a sale, or he might not even know about it. So anyway, rant over. That's it for this week. I'm probably going to talk some more about phone topics next week. If you want to be notified when new videos like this come out, please be sure to subscribe below. Thanks, and God bless.